everyone, and welcome to the Jam Yearbook. I'm Jim.
And I'm Matt. On this episode of the Jam Yearbook, we're going to bring you all the best music we found exploring the month of February 2024.
Each month, we add new songs to our Spotify playlist, New Music, the Jam Yearbook Discovers. It's a revolving playlist of new songs from the past few months that we've talked about on the show, so be sure to check it out after you listen to this episode.
Before we roll on into the new music that we found, we do have some people to mourn. We'll start out with Mojo Nixon. I saw Jesus at McDonald's at midnight. Said he wasn't doing all right.
Yeah.
That he wasn't feeling so fine. Oh, man. When I first heard those opening lines, I'll admit I was bewildered, but then I quickly became a fan of Mojo Nixon and Skid Roper. He admitted himself he was not a great singer or songwriter, but he had this infectious energy and charisma. Whatever he did was with the highest conviction. I didn't find the answers to life's mysteries with his music, but I was highly entertained. He was a good reminder at a time when I needed it to not take everything so seriously. I always had a feeling he had about half his lyrics written and the rest was improv completely.
That actually really makes a lot of sense when you say that, because they do sound like they were made up off the cuff.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And then the world lost a country legend, Toby Keith. He was one of the most well-known and successful country artists in the 2000s. On the day he died, Matt, I'm sure you saw as many red Solo cups posted on social media in tribute to him as
Hell yeah.
I did. Yeah. I wish I'd bought shares in the company before he released that song.
No kidding, right?
Yeah, he released 19 albums that produced 20 number one country hits. His father had served in the military, so Toby often went overseas to perform for the troops. Upon the news of his death, the Oklahoma governor, Kevin Stitt, ordered for the United States and Oklahoma flags on state property to be flown on half-staff all day on February 6th until sunset the following day, as a show of respect and mourning for the loss of the American music legend Toby Keith. On February 10th, the University of Oklahoma basketball team hosted rival Oklahoma State. The song Red Solo Cup inspired the university to honor him by handing out Red Solo Cups with the purchase of any drink. Videos of fans singing Red Solo Cup while holding their drinks aloft circulated all over social media again after that game. He passed away of stomach cancer on February 5th at the age of 62.
And then I'll finish up our obituaries with Aston Family Man Barrett. You know all those incredible Bob Marley songs? You know, I Shot the Sheriff, Three Little Birds, Get Up, Stand Up, Buffalo Soldier, on and on into infinity. He was predeceased by his brother, Wailers drummer Carlton Barrett, back in '87. Together, these brothers formed an amazing rhythm section.
Yeah, what an influence they had on reggae music. And to think about those bass lines, and it's funny, as two bass players, I should know that name as well as I know anyone else who's ever picked up a bass.
I never knew it until I was looking up, who had passed away. I'm like, who's this guy?
All right, let's get the deaths behind us and let's talk about the happy stuff. The birthdays that took place in February. There weren't as many as we've had in recent months. It doesn't seem like. Yeah.
We're getting further and further away from that Valentine's Day thing, right?
Well, anyway, I'll get us started. We have Wes Borland, Duff McKagan, Axl Rose, two guys, the same band. That's kind of cool. Robert DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots, Noodles from Offspring, if you don't know, and David Bryan, who I wouldn't know if it hadn't been the fact that he was Bon Jovi's keyboardist.
And then we had Alice Cooper, Vince Neil, Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden, Henry Rollins, Jake E. Lee, guitars for Ozzy Osbourne, and Tommy Iommi. Ooh, two Ozzy connections there too in their birthdays.
Yeah, there we go. Look at that. And then we had Mike Shinoda, Billy Joe Armstrong, Ice-T, Brad Whitford, and Jonathan Cain and Neil Schon.
Both from Journey. We had two sets of bandmates celebrating birthdays together.
We did. That was pretty cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then we have our album anniversaries celebrating 35 years. Come on, Two Live Crew, as nasty as they want to be. They set the music world on its ear because of being as nasty as they wanted to be.
Yeah, but it'd probably be tame compared to WAP these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we had Della Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising. I did not give this much attention when it was new. It really wasn't my thing, but I've gained a new appreciation of them recently. You put them on the playlist, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. Do they have something new? And I was kind of excited because we've been having a lot of good luck finding some classic hip hop sounds in these new
Mhm.
releases. So I was thinking we had something more to talk about. Don't get me wrong. I was not disappointed in finding out it was the 35th anniversary. This is a really cool album.
Maybe I did that on purpose, Matt, just to
Maybe
be
you
like, I'm
did.
gonna slide this in there so Matt gets
Yeah.
some De La Soul. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good album.
Oh no, I loved it. It was great.
Yep. And then 40 years going back, 1984, we had Rat go round and round. No, they had their album Out of the Cellar. That was their debut album. Great, great album. And then unfortunately, the Smiths debuted with the Smiths album. And
I agree. I thought you would be a Smiths fan.
I'm an REM guy. Come on,
Okay, yeah.
I'm an REM guy, and it seemed like in the '80s you were either Smiths or REM,
Oh, really?
or The Cure, even, and even Robert
Oh,
Smith can't stand
yeah.
Morrissey. So if people are out there and they're like, I don't understand Robert Smith, you have
Yeah.
to understand how hard it might be to understand.
Understands Morrissey.
Yeah.
Try and do that and report back. I want 2 pages single spaced.
But Matt, one of the greatest albums of all time, 40 years old, one of our favorites. And, I'm just going to say we might talk about this on the next show. Weird Al Yankovic's Weird Al in 3D.
Yes. Oh, I still have that vinyl album. Even his non-spoofy songs, and by that I mean he does have original songs that are
Yeah.
still kind of funny. And I think side two on that leads off with Nature Trail to Hell. And I'm like, damn, that's still a great song.
It
The guy's a
is.
good musician. And then celebrating 50 years, coming out in 1974, Dolly Parton's classic, Jolene. And then Kiss debuted in 1974 as well. So
Yes.
that their debut album is 50 years old.
Yeah, that's great. All right, let's get past all this and let's start talking about the music that came out in February, because I think that's what people are hanging on to this show for if they're still listening.
Please listen.
So we always start off with bands we call kind of still hanging on, or older artists that are putting out new music today. And you don't get much older than Rod Stewart and Jules Holland. They had an album called Swing Fever. I'll have to say Sir Rod Stewart out of respect for people over here in the UK. I made a big deal about this album on the previous episode. I talked about how it was in the running for number one. I recommend going back and listening to the charts episode so you can hear Jim's rant and find out that I was going to put off talking about the music until now. So I'll get into it. This is a cover album of old time classics. And I'm talking 1930s and 1940s standards. And it is exquisite. Sir Rod's voice is perfect still for this kind of music, even as he nears 80 years old. He's 79 now, 80 this year. And Jules Holland is a masterful pianist. He just has such great play and melody behind the piano. It's such a joy to listen to him. This is a dinner time album. Or if your parents come over and they're hanging around, or if you want to teach your kids about music that came out nearly 100 years ago, this is one of those albums that will get played in my house for years to come.
This is the kind of music that's more important to keep coming around, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, you brought up WAP earlier. I can't, and we talked about it last week on our charts episode. Um, I can't imagine. I'm sure her music is going to inspire other people, but in 100 years, is
We're
that
gonna
song
have
going to get, is somebody going to cover that?
is
Somebody of,
somebody gonna cover WAP, and
yeah,
like,
of Rod Stewart's and Jules Holland's
yeah,
stature. I mean,
yeah.
those two are giants. His
Hmm.
voice, it amazed me. He's older, obviously, so there is a vulnerability there, but he kept it in his constraints of what he could do, and it was extremely effective. And obviously, we got nothing but respect for Jules Holland. That
Yeah,
guy's a
we do.
master, man.
Yeah,
That
he's
guy's.
great.
And then we have Billy Joel. He got me a little emotional when I first saw the video. Not so much
Yeah.
the song, but when I saw the video, I'm like, oh dang. The song "Turn the Lights On," it really got to me. I was totally prepared to be underwhelmed but his voice was still really strong. De-aging him in the video and then progressing through his different phases was incredibly effective. It gave me the feeling of him seeing his life flash before his eyes, and obviously together with the lyrics, it was powerful. I don't think I need a whole album from him. This one song was enough though.
Yeah, when I saw the video, it got me emotional too. The younger Billy was such a big part of my childhood. I think yours as well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I think I felt like I was remembering growing older internally or emotionally when I saw it for the first time. It was almost like I was experiencing that a little bit with him, having grown up with his music.
Yeah, because you grew those are formative years for you.
Yeah, they
And
are.
and while his life is kind of, flashing before him, your life is flashing before you as well.
Where was I during that stage in Billy Joel's career? You could think about that.
Exactly. And we're reaching the age where we can connect with somebody reminiscing and
Hmm.
feeling their mortality and so on and so on.
And come on, as two, 50-plus-year-old guys, we got to take it on the chin when somebody like Billy Joel comes out and knocks us and says, "Go pay attention to the love of your life because this is what happens as you get on in years." And
Yeah.
I think it was very poignant.
Yep.
Turn the lights back on. Yeah.
Yeah. This song, the lyrics have a double meaning because it can obviously be about relations, but it can also be about, did he wait too long to come back himself
Yep.
into the music world?
Yep.
Because he's been away from a really long time.
Yeah. I was in Newcastle a few weeks ago and the buskers in the street were already playing it.
Oh,
And that's a sign of a great song.
yeah. It is a really great song.
So something else that we talked about, a song that came out in January, but the Black Crowes came along with another single here. The new album arrives in March, so we are not going to have to get 5 singles before it comes along. Chris and Rich Robinson, or as I'm going to call them, the original Gallagher brothers from the USA, have been known for their issues as brothers trying to get along in life, but they make great music together. I read an interview with them recently where they said all of their arguments that ever took place were personal. It was never about the music they were creating together. And then once they got older and they matured and they were able to get over all the personal stuff as brothers, they were able to be back on stage enjoying making music again. They aren't strangers to Led Zeppelin. They have a live album. I think it's Live at the Greek, where they play with Jimmy Page on
Yeah,
stage.
that's a really great album.
It is a great album. And this song, Cross Your Fingers, is the closest thing I've heard to Zeppelin Reborn. This is better than anybody trying to tell me that Greta Van Fleet sounds like Led Zeppelin. Sorry. This is closer. It's gritty and it has great dynamics. And the guitar solo from Rich Robinson rocks.
And I think they should keep making music because obviously it's great therapy for those two brothers.
Yeah.
Last month we had Wanting and Waiting, which we both really liked, but noticed it was rooted in their earlier sounds. I think it was Jealous Again that
Mm-hmm.
it definitely gave us some reminiscing about that. Cross Your Fingers is nothing of the sort. This has that rock attitude I do not hear enough on new music. And you said gritty, that's spot on. This is a really cool song. Not only is Kiss celebrating their 50th anniversary of their debut album, but Ace Frehley, their original lead guitarist, came out with a brand new album. 10,000 Volts. He keeps plugging away, quietly releasing albums every few years. It's solid rock. He knows what he likes, he knows what he is, he doesn't overreach. And that title track, 10,000 Volts, Walking on the Moon, Back into My Arms, it's all classic Ace.
You've been the big Kiss fan amongst the both of us. I appreciate Kiss, and I've liked a few of their biggest hits. I mean, Detroit Rock City is amazing. It's great. And yes, when I was younger, I probably sang along to Beth a few too many times in my life. But I wasn't exposed to them as a child like so many of my friends. And I think if you were growing up in the late 70s, Kiss were kind of like Star Wars to some people. When it came to
Yes, they were.
music, they
Star
were
Wars and
that
comic book
big.
characters.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed the Ace Frehley solo material that you've introduced me to. It's obvious to me that he was a larger part of early Kiss talent. And you're absolutely right about him being self aware. When the other band members seem to have failed at stretching their limits on solo projects, really just knows what he's good at.
And partially because he's from Kiss. Kiss is a special band for a lot of people. But for me, when it comes to Kiss, I'm able, because I found them at such a young age and all the makeup, blah, 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 costumes. I'm able to look past some of the hangups I have with music and just not take it so seriously and just be into it for the fun of it. And that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
just fun.
Yeah, it is.
And Jim, guess what? We had another Judas Priest single. Bum, bum.
Well, Matt, I'm going to have to admit right here and now, I like all of these singles better than any of the Snuts ones that were released prior to their album. And
Go
I'm not,
back and listen to the last episode for
yeah,
Jim Snuts rant.
and I'm not a big Judas Priest fan. I've never really listened to them that much until we started doing this show. But Matt's right. Go back, previous episode, and you'll understand what I'm saying here. And that's it. I'm not going to give them any more time on this episode.
This new song, The Serpent and the King, it started to, this is starting to feel like a running gag with us. Hey, guess what, everybody? Judas Priest has yet another early release single. They have all made me want this new album now. I've loved every one that I've heard. They've grown on me extremely well. And it's not far away. It's coming out in March. And we will have our final say on this album when we give you our March recap next month.
Yeah.
We promise we won't leave this hanging.
No, we will not.
And we also had Pearl Jam, Dark Matter. This is the best, hands down, the best Pearl Jam song I have heard in a long, 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 long time.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope it shows a lot of potential for the new album. They've been talking it up quite a bit. They've already debuted it live in concert, I think like in LA or something, and people had a lot of positive things to say about it. Mike McCready's guitar solo smokes. I must have really been into the guitar solos because I talk about it a lot on this show. I have to admit, and Pure Jam purists will probably hate me for this, I'm never 100% sold on Matt Cameron's drumming being
What?
right for these guys. And even,
Okay. All right.
yeah,
I hear that argument.
in this song, if you go back and you listen to it, there's an extra snare hit that I think would sound better as empty space, but Matt Cameron likes to fill all that space. And
He's
that's,
busy.
yeah, he likes to stay that way. And that's his style. But I think sometimes these songs can be straightforward rock, and he struggles with that. And that's been one of the issues I've had with Pearl Jam. I liked a couple of songs off their last album. We weren't really reviewing Pearl Jam, or when we did that year, I don't really know if we talked about it. I think we've praised Eddie Vedder's solo stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, we have.
But this is very Pearl Jammy. And out of all of the bands we've seen crumble since the grunge heydays, it's great to see that Pearl Jam hasn't started boring us yet like Weezer has.
Oh,
You
no.
know,
Yeah.
they still have some great rock and roll left in them.
Oh, hell yeah, they do. If they keep putting out stuff like this. And I will agree with you. The intro to this song, when Matt Cameron's doing his thing, I'm like, oh, this is so Soundgarden.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
give this guy some space and
Hmm.
he is going to just come up with something. To me, it's just so interesting
Yeah.
and just so rhythmically intriguing. It's really cool. And I was watching hockey yesterday.
Hmm.
The Devils had an early afternoon game against the Hurricanes, and every break, every break that the TV would go into, they were playing this song.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That means that album's going to get a push. So hopefully
I
that means
hope
it's
I
really
hope it
good.
does.
Yeah.
This song is really good. I heard more passion out of Eddie in this song than I seem to have heard in a while. It's like he was really pushing it in this song. It was really cool.
Good.
Canadians, rejoice. We have a new Honeymoon Suite album. It's called Alive. What a great Canadian 80s band. If I hadn't grown up in Vermont, I probably wouldn't have given this a second thought. I would have been like, yeah, that's kind of a cheesy name. I might not even check it out. But it's amazing how they sound exactly like I remember them. The opening track had me a little worried because it kind of started out mellow, but then they turned it on. I really enjoyed this whole album. It sounds like they may have re-recorded New Girl now and Love Changes Everything as bonus tracks. I was kind of going back and forth. I'm like, is it just remixed? Is it new? I was trying to find some vocal cues for that. But I really think they re-recorded them. I still love this band. Awesome. And then keeping in our 80s motif, we had modern English. I was really drawn to older, more familiar sounds this month, and not a lot of new stuff was really hitting with me. Their song Crazy Lovers, it's on our February playlist, and every time this song came on, it got repeated. Every time it came on the shared playlist that you and I have, Jim,
Hmm.
I had to like pick up my phone and go, "What the hell is this?" Oh, that's right, it's modern English. And I can't quite put my finger on what was making it so interesting to me. I think just the different layers and the spacing they were giving it kind of got in my sweet spot.
Well, it definitely was an 80s flashback month. As soon as you told me that there was new Honeymoon Suite, I think I was in a car traveling from one place to the other, and I had to, pull over and put it on, and find the new Honeymoon Suite song because I had to listen to it. We loved
No,
them
it's
so much back in the
yeah.
day. And it's rare for one of those bands to retain the sound that made them great over 30 years earlier. And they're one of those bands. So great find. And I'm happy to hear Honeymoon Suite again. The Modern English, well, I found that and put that on the playlist. So you can thank
Yes,
me
and
for
I loved it.
that.
I definitely thank you. Because I saw it in the album releases and I'm like, no, I'll pass. But then it came on. I'm like, I don't know what time it was. I'm like, wait a second, what the hell is this?
You got to go back.
I did. I went back many times.
Good. Well, I added the Crowded House song, Oh Hi, into the mix as well, talking about 1980s bands. I don't think I appreciated this song on the first listen, but then I was checking something else out. I might have been working at the computer or something, and this auto played afterwards, and it caught my attention. And I went, "Oh, what's this song that's playing? This is interesting." And I picked my head up and I gave it a closer listen, and I realized, "Oh, this is the same song I dismissed the first time." So now I really kind of enjoy it. It's a shame to me that we're looking at these bands from 30 to 40 years ago and we're really loving this music when I'm just going to quickly add that like Catfish and the Bottlemen and Kings of Leon had songs come out in February that just all kind of seem flat and uninspired. I might add them to the playlist anyway because they're modern and somebody will go and listen to the playlist because Catfish and the Bottlemen's on it, but I can let them judge whether that's going to be good for them or not.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't give me much confidence in their new album was if it was going to be any good. But on further listens, kind of like you, and it's probably because when we're prepping for the show, we don't give things its proper space, or
Mm-hmm.
you're not in the right headspace, you're not in the right mood, you're kind of in a rush. But this song really grew on me.
I think sometimes the hook comes at a different point in the song, and we want the song to grab us in that 30 seconds. We talk about the 30-second rule. And
Yeah,
that's
we're
why
getting programmed.
when it auto played later on, it was probably about, a minute and a half, 2 minutes through that I picked my head up and went, "What is this again?" And realized I was listening to that same song because after that hook came around a couple times, subconsciously my brain went, "Oh, you like this. This
Yeah,
is, yeah."
it's weird how we're getting programmed to have that hook be right up front. It's kind of in that doom scroll culture where something's got to catch you immediately before you give it the time of day. And I did check out that Kings of Leon and 100% couldn't agree more. It sounded like Caleb really didn't know what he wanted to sing, how he wanted to
Mhm.
sing the notes. It sounded like a guessing game going on in his head. They've always had like a couple years, few years in between each album, and they've been pretty reliable. This one just seems really flat.
Yeah, well, they might be aging out now at this point because that can happen.
They
And
could. And everybody's going to have just an album that doesn't connect with you
yeah,
from time to
yeah.
time.
All right, Matt. So before we get to the next part of the show where we talk about new music, we usually have a part in the show where I talk about we're taking out the trash. We have a little rant about something. It's normally about music that gets us angry, or we have a hard time winding our necks in about it.
Wow, I feel like I need to go get a beer for this one.
Yeah, you might want to crack one.
You're building up.
It's a big song to talk about and an unexpected name to roll off my lips right now. But I want to talk about Beyonce's Texas Hold'em.
Oh, Jim, don't be a bitch. Just bring
Wait a
it to the
minute,
dance
wait a
floor.
minute, wait a
Come
minute.
on, man.
This is going to be a little different this time. I'm sure everybody's out there waiting for me to rant about this song. Sorry, everybody. I don't hate this song. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to go on my personal playlist. And it's probably been heard enough by most of you now. So I might not really put it on our, what am I kidding? I'm going to put it on our playlist because it'll bring other people to come and listen to it.
And hey, you know what? Hell, it's a good song.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I want to rant about, though, is the kickback that some people gave Beyonce for making a country song. There were threats of it being banned on country radio, people flat out saying she shouldn't make country music. Look, this is a line dancing song if there ever was one. And she's a Texas girl. I'm sure she grew up hearing a lot of George Strait, hearing a lot of 80s and 90s country music. And if she wants to pay tribute to that part of her life, more power to her. Everyone, what I'm about to say might be a little more controversial. Take it as you will. Nobody complained this badly when Bon Jovi crossed over and dabbled in country, or Gwen Stefani when she decided to do a duet with Blake Shelton, also released in this same month in February.
Gatekeeping is really, really strong in country music. Metal too, but we're talking about country here. It shouldn't matter who's singing. And you mentioned her being from Texas, right? She's no spring chicken. I'm not saying she's ancient, but she's getting older. And I understand from going through that myself that when you get older, you want to reminisce. You want to reconnect with something from your past. And if this is how she wants to do it, then damn it. She should have all the freedom to do it. She's got an incredible voice. She's incredibly talented. And it's a good song. It's a really good song. People just need to not be so defensive. If Gwen Stefani was singing by herself with absolutely no connection to Blake Shelton at all, do you think she would have gotten the same reaction? Purple Irises doesn't necessarily sound like country to me either.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, we always joke around, especially about new country. And what makes country? Is it singing with a twang? I mean, these are usually drunk conversations we have.
We have talked about this, and I got to be honest. I posed this question to somebody recently, and they gave me an answer that I respected. It was a definitive no. For them, country music was about instrumentation, the slide guitar, rolling in, fiddles, the way the electric guitar bends down, sorry, achy breaky heart.
Oh, I get you.
But the way that they bend those notes, leading the theme into the song, makes a bigger difference than an accent. The accent should tell you where somebody is from. The way the music is performed and arranged, that's what makes it country. And I couldn't disagree with that.
And that argument makes complete sense. When Texas Hold'em, when I heard it the first time, I thought it had more in common with stomp clap music, the Lumineers, Mumford and Sons. It's a little more country adjacent. I mean, you can't just put in a banjo-ish sounding instrument. I don't know if it was a banjo or a guitar through an effects loop to sound like a banjo. But hey, here's the thing. If it rubs people the wrong way, I'm going to fall on the side of it being 100% country. Right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I understand that the person that you talked to, I understand their argument. So then do we need to have separate genres for contemporary country and traditional country?
Oh boy, here come the next charts from our last show.
Right? Exactly. So, I mean, you take Darius Rucker from Hootie and the Blowfish, right? Add a banjo or a slide guitar, and those songs would have been country music because it was largely acoustic guitars. If somebody were to not sing with, a twang, would it get labeled as folk? And we know folk will not get the attention that country will.
Well, I was just going to say, is it Americana instead of country?
Yes.
And maybe that is, but
Americana, you fall into what is it, Appalachian? Right? How many
bluegrass?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Right.
And all of a sudden we're throwing in the Southern accents again. All right, let's get all that pushed behind us because we need to get on to new music, Matt. And I'm done ranting about that. Uh,
It's not
the
our fault that there seem to be better older music or older groups than newer groups.
That's not true. I'm going to start talking about some great new groups. And the whole point to us talking about this, Matt, is that new music is still getting released.
You're
So,
right. You're
yeah,
right.
and great
Call
new
me
bands are
out.
still
I don't
coming
mind getting
along.
called out.
I'm going to call you out for that. So, the first band I'm going to bring up is A Short Walk to Pluto. And they're not big. They don't have a huge following on social media. They're up and coming, but they're really pushing hard right now. I don't know how I found them, searching through reels on Facebook or something, but they have released a cover, a brilliant cover of Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job with it. So I posted it on our, I'm going to start saying formerly known as Twitter, like it's Prince, our
X.
X platform.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. I tagged them in it and they gave us a retweet and thanked us for showing them some love. So they're in my good books right now. I like this band, A Short Walk to Pluto. Go check them out.
Yeah, especially around here. They're from Toronto. So hopefully, maybe they'll start touring around the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sucker for covers of this song, and this one did not disappoint. I loved the saxophone solo on it. I loved having that, it just differentiated itself because this song is so well written. There's plenty of room for bands to put their own stamp on
Yeah, and Matt, I like to act like I can take credit for discovering bands,
it.
telling them my
Air
friends about
quote
them,
Jim.
yeah, ahead of time when they're really trying to reach that next level. So I've got high hopes for A Short Walk to Pluto. They're really talented, and if you go check out their social media reels, you'll see they have everything it takes to get there. Of course, my ear is always closer to the ground over here. And there's another Scottish band that I've been following to watch their star rise.
It's the Snuts,
No, it
everybody.
is not. This band is called Gallus. And the song they had this month, so I'm hoping it's leading to a new album, is called Wash Your Wounds. I'm always going to try to champion up and coming Scottish bands. Gallus embraced punk rock the right way. There's no attempt to add the word pop here. It is punk, and that's all. They might be a little too talky shouty for you, Matt, but I really like that
Oh,
in your face delivery style.
oh, not at all. That's what punk is, man. I loved this. I started looking at their older albums, their previous album, We Don't Like the People We'd Become. I mean, that sounds like an autobiography for me. It was a lost album for me in 2023. I found it and I meant to bring it up in our 2023 wrap up. I even wrote a note to myself at work, but shit gets thrown away. But now I have them back. So thank you. Wash Your Wounds. It's great fun.
Yeah, it's a good album. And then there are the new indie darlings of British music right now. And that's The Last Dinner Party. They won the Rising Star Brit Award. This is a huge deal over here. The Brits are compared to kind of the British Grammys, and the album was named BBC Sound of 2024. So obviously, they see this as what the year ahead is going to sound like. We've been talking about the rise of women taking the lead in music over the past couple of years. Paramore has been championing. Then we have the Beaches, Teen Jesus, and others leading the way. In fact, A Short Walk to Pluto as a woman as a lead singer. She's brilliant. The Last Dinner Party stays away from all of that pop sensibility, though. At first, I thought they might be this generation's Radiohead, but then I was listening to their song Sinner. One day I was walking down the street with headphones on and it came on, and I've kind of dismissed them from time to time. I've tried to listen to them and I'm listening to this all the way through. And I probably got about three-quarters of the way through and realized this sounds like Arcade Fire. It really sounded influenced by them. Their songwriting style is so similar, and even some of the instrumentation within the song sounds the same. But once I realized that, I enjoyed them more. And that's mainly because Arcade Fire have, been steeped in controversy and knocked back a peg in my book. But I hope the Arcade Fire can pick up that torch because I'm really curious to see where they can go.
This is one of those albums that keeps getting better every time I listen to it. And it's kind of like it's along the lines of you were thinking. It's like it's so it's not like different. but it just was out of the soundscape that I've been hearing lately. And once my ear has gotten tuned to it, I'm like, dang, I start picking out more and more of the layering of the instrumentation. I'm like, oh yeah, I hear this, I hear this. I'm starting to like this one more every time I listen to it.
Yeah.
Sinner has been getting a lot of repeats lately. That's a great song. Great songwriting, layering, texturing, dynamics, all of those hits for me. They're doing a good job with it. And then I found The Thing in their album, The Thing Is. If you like good old straightforward rock, give this a spin. It's got what you're missing, Jim, from the Snuts
Let's stop
now.
bringing
It's
them
got
up. What are we
guitars.
doing?
I know. But it's like, it's got great guitars. They fit this classic rock hole, but they don't sound old. It's a little fuzzy on songs like Neptune, somewhat lo-fi. The whole album just really vibes with me. Not one instrument sticks out. It's a great mix for my ears. They don't go down the easy road and stick a ballad in the mix just to get the easy clicks, the easy listens, streams. Other than Neptune, the title track, The Thing Is, and Midnight, they also were big standouts for me.
I'm on my way to a gig next weekend. And I think a few weeks back, I sent you a link to one of the bands I'm excited to see. This type of classic rock sound is having a revival at the moment, but I'm happy to see it's not trying to copycat what's already been done. I think we've already seen that. We watched that with some bands in the 2000s, and I think I brought up Greta Van Fleet earlier. There are some
Mm.
riffs in some of their songs that really have a familiarity there that sometimes gets a little uncomfortable. But there's something familiar and fresh about the thing that I'm always going to be happy to hear this style when it's revisited correctly.
Yeah, I just hope the sound that they're putting out now can get the clicks and the streams so they don't feel the need to change to get that popularity. Because I mean, if they want to keep putting on music, they got to make money, and to make money, people got to listen
I
and
agree.
go see the
Yeah.
shows,
Go see
right?
it. Yep.
But I'm gonna pull us back into the 80s, Jim. The
Okay.
we were saying earlier, the bands that have been sticking around and we're finding these older sounds. I got a really big 80s fix this week with a couple of new bands, at least new to me. They would both fit into the 80s pop scene. Even though it's February here, we're having some days that they're kind of warm. They're sunny towards the end of the month. It's really odd for February. But Chromeo was it was an incredible fit for a sunny day doing yard work. They got a little Daft Punk in them as well. So it's kind of a bridge between the 80s and early 2000s. There's a lot of high spots, but if people listen to Words with You or Got It Good, you're going to want to hear more. Promise you.
Nice.
And then Conan Gray. This is more pop than I usually listen to of like current artists, but the delivery here was reminding me of Human League or Depeche Mode.
I can hear that. For me, it kind of sounded like a collaboration between Michael Jackson and Men Without Hats. There's a touch of Safety Dance on the song that we'll put on the playlist, and a little bit of that man in the mirror thing going
Mhm.
on. And I've got no problem with that. It was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's all accurate. There's a lot of 80s little tones and notes and sounds where you're like, oh, it's kind of like this. It's almost like you can't quite put your finger on it because he's also being himself. And all of this mix is sums up Lonely Dancers and Never Ending Song. Those two songs are exactly what you said. They're fun. Conan and The Thing were my two biggest standouts this month. I swear at least once an hour I was walking around the house or outside going la 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 la.
Nice.
That Lonely Dancer song, it's got me hooked. I love it.
That's what we look for in the music we're trying to find. Awesome. So I'm going to call you out right now. Matt, you shared a cover version of Bridge Over Troubled Water by Jacob Collier.
I swear I got to preface these when I share them now.
It featured John Legend, which interested me, and Tori Kelly, who I have no
Mhm.
clue who that is, but
With somebody that you've never heard before.
yes. And so I'm not going to lie. I didn't really care for it. We'll have to wait until March until we cover the entire album, maybe, because Jacob's full length album had some other things on it that I enjoyed. Or maybe, maybe not, because I think this came out on March 1st here, but we've discovered that that could mean February 29th. You
So,
know,
how do you celebrate birthdays and anniversaries when it when it comes to leap years? That's
you go
really
by the
kind of
birth
screwy.
certificate. That's it.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'll agree with you. Bridge Over Troubled Water is a tricky song to cover. Um, the song isn't its best as a whole. What was appealing to me and what I kept getting drawn to were the backing vocals. It's an a cappella version, and these backing vocals, all done by Jesse Collier, they're so rich, they're tight. I'm sure they're processed to hell, but it's done in a way that really grabs my ear. And also on this album, he did a song with Michael McDonald and Lawrence, who we absolutely love Lawrence. Whenever I go, that is a really good song. Clyde Lawrence actually gets some lead singing duties on it. And obviously, Gracie, as briefly as she appeared, she brought it as she always does. She is on fire always.
And there goes Matt deciding the album came out this month. But there's a song that also features Madison Cunningham on the album that sent me down a rabbit hole because I found that it sounded like Karen Carpenter. Like there
Oh,
were tones vocally, because I put this album on and I just let it continue to play once it was out. The album's full of collaboration, and we should talk about this next month. The album is the fourth along a series of albums that he's been creating over the past few years. So this might be something to look at. I think it might be the final one in there. So we're going to talk
yes.
about this when we review March, and we'll bring that up. But
Yeah, because this guy's really talented. If you go to YouTube, there's plenty of clips of him talking about stuff in the studio. This guy, music is a second language, and he's only 29, but you can tell he's well on his way to mastering that language.
yeah, and Matt, I'll just say that he came from YouTube, and so did Justin Bieber, who's probably close to 29. So we'll move along. No, I
The
don't want to talk about
Beebs.
him. No, it was March 1st over here. We will get
Okay.
to this
All right.
next month.
All
But
right.
my issue,
For once, we will not be US centric.
we will not. Thank you. But my issue getting back to Bridge Over Troubled Water, which was released as a single in February, is how I grew up with it. The
Mm,
original vocal of Art Garfunkel, it's magic captured on tape.
yes.
But then we also grew up with Elvis and Willie Nelson singing this in our youth.
And
And
they were only slightly acceptable though.
but really, how can it actually be better than those guys taking it on? Maybe changing the arrangement and harmonies that's happened on this new version, make it sound nice. But if I'm gonna have a craving to go listen to Bridge Over Troubled Water, I'm probably gonna start with the original version. And after that, I'm gonna pick Elvis or Willie Nelson first. And it's almost like I feel bad that they covered this because it, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. It's
I
rich in its
get you.
layers and it sounds good. But if somebody's gonna go look up Bridge Over Troubled Water to hear it for the first time in their life,
They're not getting this.
well, I'm sorry if this is what they get because it's not, in my
Okay,
opinion.
but I will say this can be a little bit of gatekeeping. But I'm
It,
looking but looking at both sides of this argument, I'm not 100% endorsing this song. I'm just pointing out the things that I liked with it.
mhm,
But I my problem with this song and other versions of it is the star of the show is or are the lyrics.
yes,
They're not the performance.
yes. All right. So if this leads people to go back and look at the original version of the song, then I'm happy with
Yes.
that, and I'll take that. Okay, that's
Yes.
fine. All
All
right.
yeah, we agree.
Yes.
There was also a band called Stay Inside. Let's get away from our we could have had that conversation for an hour. And we probably would have ended up on the same side because I think we are, but we also kind of want to see all of the sides. I wanted to write off Stay Inside as a regular, just old run of the mill pop punk. But the song Backyard had a little bit more to it.
Yeah, this was influenced definitely by the 2010s pop punk and indie crowd kind of combined. I'm hoping that it's going to be a sign of growth from the next pop punk generation if that's going to keep going.
Yeah, I don't think I ever heard horns in pop punk before.
No.
So so that's where the difference lies. I have to check out more of the album uh to see where they go, or if they're just intentionally combining, peanut butter and chocolate and trying to make their own. Uh, it came out, the album came out at the end of the month, so I haven't really had a chance to deep dive into it. I'm very curious what road they go down though.
Yeah, I want to check it out. All right, Matt. So I'm going to finish off the show with the discovery of an album that you are most likely sure not to listen to.
The
And
discovery of a lifetime.
I'm pretty sure the band EMF, if anybody remembers them from the 1990s,
Unbelievable, Jim. I can't
yes,
believe it.
they were not your jam. The song Unbelievable was all over the radio. And if you were around back then, but you don't remember it by name, Unbelievable, it was that annoying song with Andrew Dice Clay going, oh, through the whole thing.
Down, down, down,
Yep,
down, 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 down,
that's
down.
it. I was into that electronic dance pop music, EMF, Jesus Jones, and even the Stereo MCs when they came along. I had the cassette and it got played a lot in my car. I didn't think or hear about this band for 30 years. And then recently, I was looking at like gigs going on around Scotland online, and I saw that they were performing at a little club here. And the place probably only fits about 500 people max. And I quickly just dismissed it and judged it as a sad fate to their career. Oh, look what they're doing now. That's too bad. All right. Then I found the album. They released it in February, The Beauty and the Chaos, and I was really surprised at how much I liked it. I dug a little further to find this was the first album they'd released since 1995.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and what impressed me was that they sound exactly, absolutely consistent with their 90s albums. 29 years later from their previous release, and it's like they just picked up where they left off. I'm impressed when any band can do this. We talked about this with a band earlier in the show, about being able to just pick up where you leave off and keep going. They don't sound old, and there aren't missteps on this album. In a world of aging rockers, that's not an easy feat to pull off.
What was really amazing is his voice did not sound 30 years older.
It sounded the same.
it,
Yeah,
it was amazing. I will admit. And hey, Unbelievable, it was a good catchy little ditty back in the day. I didn't really get into like a deep dive with them, but there was something oddly comforting and made me happy that they put this out. I couldn't quite explain it.
I'm glad to hear that you listened to it. I'm kind of
Yeah.
surprised because I thought as soon as I threw this on our playlist, Matt's gonna be like, nope,
Yep.
like
Well, I will admit halfway through, I'm like, oh yeah, they're just doing the same shit that they were doing back then. But then I got thinking more and more. I'm like, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that.
there isn't. And if you go back and you listen to the entire album, it actually has better songs than the one I put on the playlist. There are songs that I
Oh
think
yeah, they're probably gonna try to get people wrapped in with a familiar sound.
that's what it is. They kind of have that same sound. And then, but that's cool that here they get back together. Maybe they had these songs in the bag. Their last album they recorded, like I said, 29 years ago was in 1995. So
Yeah.
there's potential that they had another album of songs already written and ready to go. And then they broke up. They had kids. They had a little money in the bank. They got other jobs. They started doing things, businesses, maybe producing or something
Life
like that.
happens.
And then I saw that they remastered some of their older albums, these albums from the 90s in 2020, and maybe it was a product of COVID when we did see some bands get back together and start putting out music again that hadn't been around for a lot of years. But I think maybe EMF took the time to make this album correctly instead of let's all make an album from home over COVID, and we'll all record our parts separately. And it came out really, in my opinion, as good as anything they had done before. Now, if you weren't an EMF fan before, I don't expect you to be one now. But if you like that kind of electronic dance thing that was going on in the kind of the early 90s, just before grunge broke, because it was almost a crossover in between and then it all disappeared. I think I talked about Stereo MCs. They were the last standing band of that.
Mm-hmm.
Once grunge broke, this kind of, music got buried in the background, but it fits right in there.
And yeah, and I could see that because we're kind of in an age of the early 90s where it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. Obviously, you got Taylor Swift just kicking everybody's ass and Olivia
Yep, yep,
Rodrigo.
yep, yep.
But in going through this exercise that we do every month, every day, we find that there's just an abundance and wealth of different sounds and genres, still putting out music that I have an equal amount of liking.
Yeah. Yep, yep.
Right?
So good stuff. I mean, I think February, well, it wasn't full of great new music for us to find. It was more about quality over quantity. And
Yes.
we're going to get on to the summer months, and we know as we head towards summer months that that's when a lot of releases really start to come along, and we know what the rest of the year kind of turns into as it gets towards people going back to college in the fall. So right now, here we are, February, January. We skipped December. It's not been that bad. We'll
No,
update the
December
playlist,
sucks.
and yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah. But Matt, we're going to go to the next show, and we kind of decided today what that was going to be about.
Yeah, we're going to bring in some comedy.
Yeah, we
But
need to.
but as it pertains to music.
Yeah, because we're not funny. No, we need to bring comedy to the show. All that stuff that's out there that is going to be a lot of fun. We should even try to find the stuff that didn't work. The comedians that tried to put songs out where it kind of fell flat. All right, so it's my turn to wrap it up because I think you wrapped up the last show.
Wrap it up and I'll take it.
That's not our theme song, people, but Matt seems to
No,
bring it to
it's
the end
not.
of
But
every one of our
anything,
shows.
just about everything. Do you find this in life, Jim, where just about everything will remind you of some kind of song lyric?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yep. I need to think of something different for wrapping it up then. So it's not the
Yes.
Fabulous Thunderbirds every single time. Everybody, we want to thank you for listening to the Jam Yearbook. Once again, we have wrapped up February 2024. We apologize for nothing. Our opinions are our own, and we're sticking to them. But we do hope you go and check out the new music that we talked about that we really like. We're going to add that to the playlist. New music, the Jam Yearbook discovers. Go on to Spotify, find it. Every single month, we add new music to it. Don't think there's not good music coming out because it's always coming along. And if you don't like one of the songs, because we'll probably add the Judas Priest song, skip it. Go to the next one. You'll like that too.
Or just hold out. It's probably 5 minutes of your life.
Yeah, you can give it 5 minutes. Come on. All right, Matt. Time to say goodbye to the good people.
Goodbye, good people, and thank you for listening to the Jam Yearbook once again. We appreciate all the support.
We will see you next time. Peace, love, and podcast.